What's up, Yahoo Sports Daily? It's Dan Titus, and here's what happened while you were sleeping in the association. We start in Chicago, where the Bulls came back from 24 down to defeat the Sixers 113 to 111. Josh Giddey posted his second straight triple-double, delivering 29 points, 15 rebounds, and 12 assists. He's the first Bulls player to do that since Michael Jordan in 1989. Giddey capped off his amazing night by driving and dishing and finding Nikola Vucevic in the corner, who buried the game-winning three with 3.2 seconds left on the clock. Sixers just couldn't buy a bucket in the fourth quarter, only scoring 16 points in the final frame. Now, let's head out west, where the Los Angeles Clippers hosted the Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC remains undefeated at 8-0 after handling the Clippers 126 to 107 in the Intuit Dome. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 30 points with 12 assists, despite not even playing in the fourth quarter against his former squad. SGA looks every bit the MVP, and he's now scored at least 20 points in 80 consecutive games. That's the third longest streak in NBA history. Kawhi Leonard didn't suit up for this game, and the Clippers definitely missed him down the stretch, as the Thunder held the Clippers to just 30 second-half points and 18 turnovers. So now that we know that the Thunder pretty much control the Western Conference, I want to ask about the East. The Bulls are 6-1 with the best record in the Eastern Conference right now. So are they a legitimate contender or threat in the Eastern Conference?
Titus, appreciate the work on that. Great job getting us updated. And he asked the question, are the Bulls a legit contender? And Caroline, these are tough games. If I'm going to be honest, this is a tough game for me to have a great takeaway about the Bulls on, because for the majority of the game, the Bulls were getting their butts whooped. Like, this was a 76ers win until all of a sudden it wasn't a 76ers win. And I want to give a ton of credit to the comeback, because the comeback certainly is substantial. But if you're asking me what plays forward for the rest of a season, like what I believe in more, what we saw from the 76ers was indicative of what we've seen most of this season. Like, Maxey looks like a man possessed right now. And the way they move the football, the way they move the basketball, particularly in finding open looks, I think is impressive for the 76ers. So even though the Bulls won, am I crazy to say that I think that the 76ers are actually the better contender in the East moving forward?
I don't think you're totally crazy, but I will make the case for Chicago, because I think we need to be talking about the Bulls as legitimate contenders. I know it's November 5th. I know there is a lot of time left, but allow me to overreact to what we've seen from this team so far. They have lost one game to the New York Knicks, who I also view as legitimate championship contenders. And that came on the heels of a double-digit win over that Knicks team just the game before. And I think a big reason that I view this Bulls team as legitimate contenders, one, you have a guy who is averaging a double in Josh Giddey, averaging over 20 points a game, 10 rebounds. You have Vucevic, who is supplementing that scoring, who has been legit and lights out defensively. Maybe that's the biggest surprise of this Bulls team, how good and sound they've been defensively. I know that sounds silly after they gave up 45 points in the first quarter to the 76ers last night, but they also held them to just 16 in the fourth when it mattered most, and they needed to scratch and claw back to find a way to win. I also think it's the Bulls bench scoring. They got 30 points off the bench last night. So it feels like the Bulls are checking all of the necessary boxes of being a championship team. It's, can you just sustain this level of dominance that we've seen so far in the win and loss column from the Chicago Bulls?
I don't disagree with that. And I think, it's interesting, because one thing we'll try and be is somewhat calm and measured and not overreactionary in this. You're right. The Bulls are having a really hot start. And maybe it's because I didn't have great expectations for the Bulls that it's taking me a second to wake up to the Bulls. I continue to look at the 76ers, who after the loss last night fall to 5-2. But even in that loss, look, they got 20 points from Embiid. I think that's going to be huge. How Embiid works into all of this is going to be a substantial portion of what we talk about. Maxey comes away again with 39 points. Edgecombe, while we may not be talking about the glorious numbers on it, Edgecombe had a double-double last night, 12 points, 11 boards. Like, this is the method for Philly that I think is actually proving itself to be really sustainable. Also, not for nothing, I think the East is proving itself to be a lot more interesting than people thought it would be coming into this season. So far, certainly we've been saying the East is wide open. Well, Milwaukee 5-3. The Knicks, you mentioned, a contender 4-3. Like, all of these teams putting in right now in the East, I'm not willing to say that the East isn't totally wide open. Now the West is the one that's supposed to be wide open, and I'm not sure it is. Like, OKC wins last night. OKC's 8-0. OKC's untouched at this point, 8-0, and it's just, to me, this is that stunning point. I said earlier in the season, as the season first started, it felt like they were playing with their food until late in the game, and then their depth takes over. They needed overtime the first couple of games to get some wins. They've been winning a lot of close games. There is no doubt about it, but look at the metrics there. They are absolutely crushing it. They're 8-0, and I don't even know that I've really felt like there's been a time where there's been any sense of panic. I think Oklahoma City's biggest enemy this season is going to be, do they fall into complacency at some point with the long season where they're just not losing to anybody?
I can't go that far. I can't go to say that their biggest enemy or their biggest threat to repeating is just their own, apathy, because we're talking about the West here. And look, it's early. And I know that there have been some teams that have maybe been off to slower starts, but we are talking about an incredibly deep West. I still think it's Denver that can threaten OKC in the West. I mean, both of Denver's losses this season came by single digits, and they came against the Warriors and then the Blazers, who have also been a really pleasant surprise, at least early in the season. So it's still Denver to me, but I mean, just look up and down the West. I'm not willing to write off the Lakers. And as long as Austin Reeves is playing the way that Austin Reeves is playing, then I'm not gonna just, write off the Lakers just because they've fallen short of expectations since their championship in the bubble. I think the Rockets absolutely can be contenders in the West. So I think the hot start is very encouraging, especially for me, who picked OKC to go back to the finals. So woohoo, win for me on November 5th. But overall, I'm not willing to say today on November 5th that it's, OKC has an incredibly clear path to get back to the finals. Not in this West. Absolutely not.
Okay, I'll give you the fair argument of chaos could be a big part of this conversation, right? And I picked Denver coming into it, and I should feel good about Denver at 4-2. I feel better about the Lakers. Like, if you ask me right now who I think can challenge OKC the most in the West, why not the Lakers? Because they are doing all of this without LeBron. And remember, when we asked Wendy yesterday, hey, do they even need LeBron? Are they better off without him? Wendy took about a third of a second before he shut my hot take down. And he's right. Like, at the end of the day, he's right. But at some point, what we got to look at is, who will the Lakers be as the season goes on? One of the benefits of LeBron getting this time is, they can take the time getting him back. So because the Lakers are playing so well at 6-2, they can take plenty of time and just ease him on back whenever he's fully ready. That also means at the end of the season, when we get into the playoffs, we're going to get a more rested version of LeBron. So you're going to get a guy that's like really not as stressed out as he usually is going into the playoffs, hasn't played as many minutes as he's used to, coming back to a Lakers team that right now is just, they're winning a lot of games without LeBron. I think if you had gone in before the season started and said, hey, no LeBron, 6-2, Austin Reeves becomes a superstar in this process, we would all say, okay, wait, got to recalibrate. Like, I'm recalibrating the power rankings of the West, and to me, it's time to start admitting that the Lakers look like the biggest threat to OKC, especially because it's not one guy, it's not two guys, it's three guys that will be able to beat you, presuming they all get on the court together at some point.
Yeah, I mean, whenever, going into this season, I was power ranking the West. Obviously it was OKC, and obviously it was Denver. I put San Antonio in that conversation as well, because as long as Wemby can stay healthy and stay on the court, I think that why not the Spurs? Why can't the Spurs be in this conversation? Understanding that they're young and they have a lot of figuring out how to win to do. I still think the Spurs can be a contender in the West. The T-Wolves. The Blazers, I guess, but I think the Blazers, again, have been, a much better surprise to me than I would have anticipated.
The Blazers are cute right now. I'm going to be condescending. The Blazers are cute. The Blazers, it's cute. It's cute. Go ahead.
The Blazers have been better than I thought they would be. And also, it's November 5th. I can already hear people saying, it's early, it's early. We know that. We're saying that. We're acknowledging that. But that's all that we have to evaluate right now. Honestly, the Lakers weren't really at the forefront of my mind as legitimate contenders in the West, just because it felt like the Lakers were such a far cry from being a true contender in the West. But now, no, absolutely not. Why not the Lakers, to your point? I mean, if Luka can stay healthy, Austin Reeves continues this trajectory that he's been on of averaging 30+ points a game, and then you get LeBron back and healthy. I think we brought up yesterday to Wendy the idea of are the Lakers even need LeBron? Should the Lakers trade LeBron? And Wendy was like, haha, yeah, no. Like it is obscene to even consider that the Lakers would be better off without LeBron James. So that's just an added net positive when LeBron James does come back and gets healthy.
Yeah,
But
well,
what's his
one of the
stats?
teams not in
I know
contention.
we've been saying that. It is stat.
Oh, yeah. No, we know that. One team not part of the stat conversation, the Clippers. The Clippers take the L last night. The Clippers suck so far, but they also take the L off the court. Steve Ballmer being sued by 11 former investors in Aspiration, the company at the center of the scandal involving the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, alleging that he was funneling the company's money to Kawhi Leonard. So I guess the question is, quick, Caroline, is do we believe that this is going to get us any answers before the NBA actually finishes its investigation?
Unfortunately, no. I can hope for the best, and I can hope that the truth and justice comes to light, and the NBA brings the hammer down if he does in fact, and it does come to light that Steve Ballmer was circumventing the cap. But overall, I don't have faith. I like to think there's still good in the world, but overall, money wins out, and Steve Ballmer has a whole heck of a lot of it. So I can't believe that we get anything resolute anytime soon.
Yeah, well, the one thing I would say is that this is the very beginning of a long civil process. And civil processes mean that somebody gets to give their side and then the other team gets to give their side. And I also think it's probably fair to say right now, a buddy of mine that was an attorney years ago said people in lawsuits rarely win because they're right. They mostly win because they can afford the best lawyers. That's not always true in today's society in civil lawsuits, but I certainly wouldn't want to be out affording Steve Ballmer when it comes to the legal system. So I have a sneaky suspicion all of this is going to get very quiet, very negotiated, and then just like the entire controversy, it's just going to go away. I know NBA fans desperately want answers, but we continue to hear that those desperate answers aren't coming anytime soon.